The new Flat Rate Podcast.
The new Flat Rate!
For contractors ready to boost tickets, simplify business, and gain freedom. Today we sat down with Tyler Martin, founder of CFO Made Easy, and now your host, me, Natalie Koop, and your co-host, Danielle Putnam. Hey there, I'm Natalie Koop, host of the New Flat Rate Podcast.
And I'm Danielle Putnam, the CEO of the New Flat Rate.
Today, we're excited to welcome Tyler Martin. He's a fractional CFO and founder of CFO Made Easy. Tyler, thank you for joining us.
Hey guys, great to be here. I am so excited to be talking with you.
We're happy to have you.
Let's kick things off. Tyler, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do? Maybe throw in a funny story.
Yeah, so first we should start with I've never had duo hosts, so go easy on me, guys. I'm a little bit nervous here. I'm not gonna lie. But that aside, so I was sharing with you, I have a 15-year-old dog, and his bathroom habits are kind of inconsistent, we'll say. And so I take him out early in the morning and just make sure he doesn't have any accidents or whatever. Well, it was pretty dark, and as I'm walking around, I started to fall, and I almost fell right into a pile of some. And so it was like all I could think of is, oh man, this would not have been the way I wanted to start the day. So fortunately, I avoided that major disaster, but it made me chuckle after the fact.
I'll laugh with you. So you don't have a fenced-in yard that you can set
We do, and then we have a little dog runner on the side where the older dog likes to go, and so I have to go out there and let him in it. If I let them all go in there, they bark like crazy as people are walking by. So it's kind of on an as needed basis.
Yeah, we've had the cops called on us twice by one particular neighbor because of our dogs barking. And I actually do care, and I do try to, when they're barking at other walkers, I try to put them in, but
They're dogs.
I'm like, if this neighbor had their own dog, maybe they would be happier.
It's tough. We all have a neighbor like that, and we just have to be careful. I know mine loves squirrels, so I mean, God forbid a squirrel's on a fence. It's like the world is going crazy for about 10 minutes as they're chasing a squirrel that they will never catch. And it's like
They
this
don't catch
rerun
them?
of a bad movie. Sorry.
Oh, Tyler, my dogs catch the squirrels. I've got two beagles and they work together. Like
Wow.
Jurassic Park, the velociraptors, how they work as a pack. My two dogs do. So one of them will tree it and then the other will wait. And so it's very often that we come home and there's disgusting smells in the yard because they got the squirrels that day. It is so too gross for podcasting. Please
Ah,
carry us on, Natalie. Move us out of this.
get us out of here, Natalie.
Yes. Well, my first question is, what's the biggest financial mistake you see service business owners make when they start growing fast?
Yeah, so let's gear this towards home services in particular, even though I do work with service businesses in general. But home services, I think the biggest thing is everybody wants to grow, or usually everybody wants to grow. And there's a common saying, it's growth eats cash. And what that means is if you're going to hire a technician, that's another person on the payroll. You're going to probably need another truck or van. You're going to maybe need tools or things to get them going. It just creates all this additional cost. You might need more advertising to support the additional business that they're going to need. And so all those things create additional costs, and they don't plan for it. So I think that's the biggest mistake, is just not really thinking about a plan to your growth and tying it to what that means. I mean, everybody says, hey, I want to be a $10 million company, but they don't necessarily say, what's it going to take to be that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, you've got a really impressive background, Tyler, and we kind of got a little sidetracked in the beginning. We didn't let everybody know, not only are you a fractional CFO, but you've got years in the industry and years in finance. Can you talk a little bit about why you're so qualified to be meeting with these business owners and why you know that growth takes cash and eats cash?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a little bit about my story. So, I started out working for CPA firms locally, local CPA firms, and I was on path to become a partner. And I just decided one day I wanted to start my own business. Like I had all these clients, they were all business clients, was always coming in, and I'm like, I don't want to be that guy giving advice, but I'm not actually running a business. So I left the job. I was making very good money and went and started a CPA firm, and did not have the support of anyone in my family or probably even friends. They thought it was crazy. Why are you leaving this high paying job that you're on a path to potentially become a partner someday. And I remember sitting in an office. I rented this little tiny office, and I'm sitting in this I'm staring at this white wall. It's like the first week. I have no clients, and I'm going, I wonder if I did the right thing. And it was pretty nerve-wracking the first couple weeks. And then after that, I started building a referral network. I had some different lead generation tools. Back then, there was Craigslist, which has changed a lot to
Yeah.
today's standard, but that actually was a great lead generation source for me back then. And before you knew it, I had 200 business clients. 5 years later, I had 200 business clients. I had a very vibrant practice, really good receipts in gross income, I should say. And I met a guy, one of my clients, and we got close, and he was starting an engineering services firm.
Mm.
And he said, "Hey, would you ever want to," after a couple of years knowing him, he said, "Hey, would you ever want to sell your firm and come work with me and take, buy a piece of ownership and we could build this thing?" So I ended up selling my practice and joining him. And I ended up running his company for 8 out of the 10 years that I was there. So it's a
Wow.
little bit beyond even just finance. It was literally setting up training plans, processes, procedures. Our whole goal was to sell the business someday. So my whole mindset, straight out from some of the great books that are out there around, don't be in your business, work on your business in terms of being
Yeah.
out of it and setting up processes, systems, trainings, all that. And after 10 years, we sold it to a very large company as a multi-billion dollar company back east. The revenue got up to about 25 million a year. So we got it to a decent sized small business, had really good net profit. And after that, I was like, okay, what do I kind of do with the rest of my life here? I was a minority owner, but I did okay on it. And that's where I started the fractional CFO thing. I actually started out as a business coach, and I didn't wasn't really feeding my soul as a business coach because I'm more of like a finance numbers guy. So I was always kind of leading with numbers, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't you just tweak and do what you're really doing? Let people know they're coming to you because they want to know their numbers and they want to know their strategy. And it's all been, you know, rearview mirror stuff now. And now I love doing it. I got great client base, and I learn from clients every day in terms of the problems they're facing and how to help them get through them.
Yeah, that's a great story. And you really did climb up. And that I like how you say looking in the rearview mirror, seeing it and being thankful too now in this season of wow, I needed all those seasons and growth, and that's really impressive. Neat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good fun. I mean, we got luck. I mean, things, when you do well, part of it is because you make great decisions, but I think part of it is being in the right spot at the right time, and luck plays into it to some degree. So I think there were a lot of factors there
Yeah.
when I reflect on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
say that too. I like to say, well, we've been lucky, but really we put in a whole lot of hard
Right.
work. I mean,
Right. That's the humble side of us.
yeah.
Yeah. Going into cash flow, how can contractors know if their cash flow is healthy or is there any warning signs?
Yeah, so I think what really happens is most owners will look at their bank statement, and if
Oh
they
yeah.
don't have enough to cover payroll, that's usually a sign cash flow isn't that great, or whatever else they want to do. But a good sign that you have a healthy cash flow is if you're planning for things. If you can say, "Hey, I am going to hire that tech. I am going to add a truck, and oh, you know what? I'm going to be able to fund that additional." And I'm making up this number, $40,000 of growth next month because I've got the cash to do it. I've got the reserve to do it. And that's how you know you have healthy cash flows when you've got a plan and you can execute on your plan rather than what most of us business owners and myself included early in my journeys, we just kind of we have ideas and stuff and we just jump on them and we go for them and we hope they work. And then when they don't, we kind of an oh crap factor kicks in. Might use a different word if it was, not PG rated. But we just think about that. And so that hopefully that answers your question. But I think a lot of it is around planning, and then you can execute on that plan. And if it's happening, that means you have a healthy cash flow.
That's really good. And Tyler, as business owners, especially in the beginning, why business owners are so great is because they can make something happen. They
Yeah.
have an idea, they roll up their sleeves, and they do what needs to be done to make something happen. And of course, they majority of the time don't have a lot of financial experience, or
Right.
they would be in a financial industry. And so just like you said, looking at the bank statement, I know I did that for years and years and years every day. Do I have cash? Do I not? And I know countless others do, right? And so if that is you, that's okay. We're being honest saying, hey, it was me too. And then we start talking to people like Tyler when we learn, wait a minute, what do you mean planning for the future, having cash flow projections? And once we surround ourselves with people that can teach us these things and we can learn, and then we can say, okay, Tyler, well, how do we start doing cash flow projections? How do we start saving? Where do we put that savings? How far in advance do we need to save? Those questions can start coming, and then we can start learning and building up our expertise in that area of our business as business owners. But no shame if that's not the way that you run today, is just recognize where you are and where you could be. But I love that you can get to the point where you can look ahead and be planning. That's a really good, to Natalie's question. I thought that was really good of, hey, if you're just looking at the bank versus if you actually are planning ahead, that's how you know if your cash flow is healthy.
Right. And wonderful thing you said, because in almost every potential new client meeting, there always is a certain level of shame in terms of embarrassment or, hey, it's beyond my capacity. In fact, I talked to a guy yesterday and he said, you could just tell, you could see it on him. And I think it's important that people do understand there shouldn't be any shame in that. I mean, you got to a point that's super impressive, whatever that point is. It could be $1 million, it could be $800,000, it could be $10 million. Doesn't matter. You got to a point in this work. It's good to have outside sources, whether it be marketing or pricing or you name the discipline. But it's good that you're out getting more intelligence into your business to give you more ideas and fuel to do things that are going to help you reach whatever your goals are, whether that be growth or legacy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last night, today's my second born's eighth birthday. So of course, I swang by Walmart on my way home yesterday, look at the cupcake boxes to get some cupcakes. Can't buy any pre-made cupcakes at Walmart if you actually look at the ingredients because it's all bioengineered. It's like, let's not do that. And I'm not perfect health freak, right? I'm just saying it's all chemicals. Let's not get that today for her classroom. Anyway, I know this isn't about cupcakes, but so then I'm looking for a box of cupcake mix. I was like, all right, maybe this won't be so bad. And again, all bioengineered. And I'm like, okay, what does that even mean? Like, it's not even food. So I was like, I guess we're going to have to make them from scratch. So here I am, 10 o'clock last night, making these from scratch cupcakes so that my child can bring them into the classroom today. And while I was doing it, I said, hey, Google, play something motivating. Play a motivating podcast for me. Play something that makes me feel good about my business. And of course, Google's like, well, what would you like me to play that on? I was like, well, Spotify, find me something. YouTube, Spotify, I don't care. Just play me something good. And nothing good came up, right? Google tried, but nothing good could come up. But as a business owner, even last night, I mean, I was tired, it was late, and that shame isn't always in finances. I think I'm kind of sometimes feeling just, I'm tired. So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in a slump. Am I doing the right things? Is my business good? Is it not? I wish I was just thinking about my child's birthday, but at 10 o'clock last night, I wasn't. I was thinking about the new flat rate, and I wanted something on the world to tell me, you're doing a great job. You're doing the right thing. And it wasn't out there. It didn't answer me and say, Danielle, you're doing great. It's fine. And so I'm glad we kind of stuck on this nerve for a second, just to encourage everybody else on there that let's just take the shame out of business. We are doing good. We are moving forward. Let's surround ourselves with other leaders and learn so we can do even better.
And I want to add a little tip here. You mentioned about the ingredients. Now, I'm not a real ingredient freak, but occasionally I'll find something and I'll go, I wonder what that is. So now I take a picture when I need of the ingredients and I just say, ChatGPT, tell me, am I supposed to eat this or not? And it's funny. It'll like, oh no, this is our whatever. It'll kind of tell you whether it's potentially healthy or not. And it saves me a lot of time from, you're trying to
Yeah.
find the right ingredient and you don't know
Because
what the
half the
word
time I
means.
can't even read those labels. I'm like, I can't even read that. It's
Why do
like,
you think I have these
oh,
goofy glasses on?
I need them, right? So like,
Going into like scaling, what role does pricing play in keeping a company profitable as it scales?
Yeah, I mean, and you guys are the experts on this, but I'll tell you what I see. I think we're always too scared to price right, and we price too low. I see it time and time again. In fact, um, Danielle, you were kind enough to be on my podcast, and we had a conversation, I believe it was last week.
yeah,
And I think I told you the story, so you may have to hear it twice. But I have a client, and she's buying a business, and it's her third business that she's buying. Well, we were going over the pricing of this new business that she's considering, and it's in the plumbing space. And I was showing her invoices. I'm saying, look at how this pricing compares to what we're charging. I've kind of always told them that I think they're pricing too low and they won't really listen to me. Well, anyway, this individual's charging same area like 3 times as much.
Hmm.
And I was kind of hoping when she saw the invoices, she'd go, "Oh my gosh, we're way undercharging." Instead, the way her mind worked was, "Oh wow, he's just really ripping them off. He's like charging way too much." And so we at the end we had a meeting of minds. I think once we went through enough invoices, she saw that she's further gave evidence that we're undercharging in her other business entities. But long answer, but to say this is an area where, and I'd love your guys' input too, where we just consistently are undercharging. We're scared to. We think we're going to lose business. A lot of times, we might even be comparing our pricing to Chuck in the truck, and so we're trying to match it or be $20 under it. And it's just dangerous way to price, and it usually doesn't lead to great profitability. If you look in, I know this now because I've interviewed probably 40. Well, that's might be an exaggeration. Numerous home service business owners, and the ones that are performing at a high level, the ones that have sold their company for 8 or 9 and have 8 or 9 figures and have really good net profit margin, they're the ones that are aggressive on their pricing. They're the ones that are testing pricing and not as afraid to do that. So, long answer. Hopefully, I hit all the bells. I'd love to know your kind of feedback on that.
Well, interesting that you said those that were able to sell out were priced higher and more aggressive, which proves they were able to grow with those higher rates. And so customers were not rejecting them, turning them away, saying, no, I'm not going to do business with you. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to grow their business revenue.
Right.
So there's a lot to unpack there and to see. We definitely agree and see all the time people are undercharging in their market. And you want to determine, of course, be real with yourself, be honest. What kind of business do you want? How big of a company do you want? Do you want to grow? Are you comfortable? Is it a lifestyle business? What is it? Like find out what really is going to drive you. And then you got a price for where you do want to be. If you need to afford to wrap your trucks, if you need to afford to do different marketing and different things and hire different talent, well, then you've got to be able to price for that, right? But with the power of a menu at the new flat rate, this isn't a plug for us. It's just a reminder that we also do want to have a very affordable, competitive price point. And so that's why we have a menu, is that bottom price on every menu page is still affordable. It's not gouging the customers. And there's a percentage of customers that will take that bottom option. And that's okay because it gets us in the door. It lets them know, oh, good, I can afford to do business with you. So you're not losing business to all the Chuck in the trucks, if that's what we say, right? But there also is opportunity for customers to buy more. And 80% of the time they do. They buy up because people want choices and the value, right? We don't want to feel like it's going to happen again. I can't stand it when there's 1,000 analogies, whether you're taking your car and you're getting some service in your house. You don't really want the cheap fix because you don't want it to happen again. I don't want that Band-Aid on there, right? So I agree and you're spot on.
And it makes
And oh, sorry. Go ahead, Natalie, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it makes me think of that story you were telling, I think Sky the other day or something. It was of that 24-hour company you call, and you
Yeah.
think they're undercharging so much, and you just wish
Yeah.
they would like charge what they're worth.
Yeah, yeah. There's a heating and air company in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I won't say their name, but we've used them many times, and it just hurts my heart. So one of our sales reps the other day, she's like, "Hey Danielle, I'm gonna take a break off of Zoom, and I'm just gonna go out in the field today, and I'm gonna go meet some business owners in the area and tell them about the new flat rate." And I was like, "Well, Sky, that's brilliant. Have a great time." I said, "And when you're out, I said, will you swing by such and such company for me? Just you don't have to say anything. They don't know me." I said, but my husband is a customer of theirs. I said, and it breaks my heart because this one time in particular, we were at a Braves game on a Friday night. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday's night. We're down in Atlanta. That's an hour and a half from us. And we're in the middle of a Braves game. And my husband is a big fan. So we're not going to be leaving the Braves game. And we had an Airbnb in Chattanooga. And the customer calls and said, hey, the HVAC goes out. Well, Tyler, this HVAC unit was 18 years old. So we've got an old system. It's 18 years old. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday night. And so the Airbnb, they call and they say, hey, what do we do? So my husband Josh calls the HVAC company. And again, we're in a bind. We're in Atlanta, far away. We are at a Braves game that we are not going to leave. And so automatically, no question about it. In my head, minimum is $500, like minimum. Anybody to show up on a Friday night, minimum. And so they were there within 30 minutes. They're like, hey, we got somebody right around the corner. They'd get over there within 30 minutes. And guess what the invoice price was? It was a little fix. What was the invoice price?
I would say probably $500, $300, somewhere in there. Little fix.
$235.
Wow. Wow.
Now that's what, but it breaks my heart because and then with negotiations, this isn't about negotiation, but you don't know what the other person is thinking, right?
Right.
And we had such a spread here of expectations. We needed somebody there. We really didn't care what
And
it.
it's an emergency call.
It's an emergency call. It's after hours. It's a weekend and an 18-year-old system. They didn't follow back up and ask if we wanted a replacement, right? They didn't do
Mm,
anything. But there was so much room there where we could have met and they could have had a higher, they could have maximized the service call price for sure, made more revenue. But
easily.
it breaks my heart because I don't want business owners struggling to make payroll. I don't want them struggling saying, why am I doing this business? And it's such a burden on their back when it doesn't have to be. If they
Right.
would take a look at their pricing and price competitively and high enough so that they can get paid what they're worth. Our founder wrote a book called Why Won't They Pay Me What I'm Worth? And that's what it's about. So I'm passionate about that too. I'll get off the soapbox. It's your turn to talk, not mine.
No, no, but there's one other thing. This what you said was awesome. That's a real world, and we see things like that a lot. And I always go like, how do you still do that?
Hmm.
And on social media, we're just so crammed down our throat of get our pricing right, follow up on our leads, and yet there's still a lot of companies that don't do these basic things, which is the mind-boggling part. But what I was going to say is what I like to do with a new client is we'll do a break-even analysis, and we'll figure out how many technicians do they have out in the field, what is their overhead, and then how much do they want to make? And this is the golden question I love to ask: is what do you want your net profit to be? And usually people say, oh, 20, 25%. So that's cool. So you build that into the break even, and it comes out to be like $500 an hour. And it's like, well, before we talk about that, what are you charging? What do you think is your cost per hour with profit built in? And they'll say something like, $200, 220. And I'll say, well, if you want to hit your numbers, you should be around, and I'm making this up, 400, $500 an hour. And they're like, whoa. And a lot of times their first response is, well, I don't think I could charge that much. And sometimes that's true. Um, but in most cases, it's probably not. It's just they're a little scared. And one last thing I want to add to this is it's okay with pricing to test things. Like I think sometimes we think like we're going to change our pricing. Oh my God, that is what it is forever. Well, that's not true. Test it for a fair amount of time. Test
Yeah.
maybe just one product line, and then see where that's at.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree because it's like living and breathing like a business. We're changing and testing our product
Right.
services all the time, right? Your team's changing, your growth is changing, your market's changing, pricing changes too.
So true. So true.
So, what financial habits separate a $2 million company from a $10 million company?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different things going on when you have those different levels. At a $2 million, you probably still have the owner really heavily involved in the business. They're getting into basic decisions, maybe even down to computing quotes and estimates, sending out invoices. So they're really wrapped in the business most of the time at that level. When you get to 10 million, you're starting to have a small leadership team. The owner understands the delegation to his leaders and letting the leaders handle a lot of things. So that whole processes and systems delegation really comes into that at that $10 million level where you're dialed in, and it's not the business is not relying on the owners. That's really the two biggest things. Also, I'll say from to really answer your question, which was the financial side, is also they're dialed in on their numbers. Most companies aren't getting to 10 million and they're like, oh, I think I'll charge this, or I think, that's Helga. We've worked with her for 20 years, so we'll just give her a little deal or whatever. They're a lot more systematized in their pricing. They know their numbers. They probably know their efficiency on a revenue basis per technician. So that would be the big thing is I'd say they really just know key numbers. They probably have a weekly dashboard that they're getting that gives them a pulse on the business on Monday morning or at latest Tuesday morning for the prior week. So they kind of know all these things that are allowing them kind of like they're flying a plane. They have gauges that tell them if they're going in the right direction. They're not just looking at the $2 million guy or girl is probably looking at financials that their bookkeeper finishes, maybe if they're lucky
Hmm.
a month after the fact, but probably in most cases they fall behind 2 or 3 months. So they're looking at 3 months of financials 2 or 3 months later. It's just a whole different And that's exactly what's causing the $2 million company, by the way, from growing. That's what's preventing them from growing, is all those things I just brought up. So those are things that come top of mind.
Closing it out, if someone listening wants to improve their bottom line today, what's the first step they should take?
It really would depend on the business, but I would say we always want to look at pricing. I mean, that would be almost the first thing I'd always suggest, because it just seems like it's the most reoccurring problem that I see. So pricing would be number one. Number two would be there's something called gross profit margin. And so gross profit margin is you've got your revenue less all your direct costs related to creating that revenue. And oftentimes that's 50%. So what that means, or better, you want it to be. So let's say if I collect a dollar, 50% is going to go to my technicians, all my direct costs, material, stuff like that. I get to keep 50% now to cover my overhead. And then whatever's left after that, I get to take it home and, whatever I want to do, or grow, put it back into the business to grow it. So I would say pricing. Number two is, how do I get my gross profit margin up? Sometimes that's a function of pricing. Sometimes that's a function of more efficiency in your technicians, so getting routes better, getting get just efficiency, getting them to handle more jobs. It could be a handful of things there. So once you get your gross profit margin, then the next thing is looking at your overhead. You got to be careful on overhead. If someone just comes across and says, "Hey, I'm going to cut my overhead," that could be short-sighted, because that could prevent you from actually growing. So you have to kind of figure out, obviously, if common ones in overhead to get out of control is we forget about software licenses we have for software we're not even using anymore. We're not putting our insurance out to bid, things like that. So there are things that we can look for optimization in our overhead, but we got to be careful we don't ever cripple our overhead that prevents us from growing. So once again, there's a plan there that you kind of have to look at all those components and decide, make intentional decisions in terms of what you're doing.
And don't do that alone. So,
Yeah.
Tyler, I know that as a fractional CFO, you work with business owners doing just this.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So my clientele heavily focused on home service businesses. Some are commercial. Love working with that particular area. Great people, really trying to help the community. I think that's the part that I love about it most, is they're really trying to help the community, which, I live in San Jose, giant city. So it's not, you don't get as much community feel as I did when we were younger. And it was more of like a small city. So that's what gravitates me most to this industry, as well as just the hard work, just getting the job done and rolling up your sleeves. And yeah, that's what I help them do, is come up. So what I like to say is CPA thinks about taxes. So that's after the fact. An accounting team or a bookkeeper does financial statements after the fact. I'm kind of the guy that's looking ahead. I'm the strategy, the financial part, the planning, that helps them think, how am I going to get to my next steps, and what do I need to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was working with a fractional CFO last summer, and he kept questioning, and I had never received such push before when it comes to financials. But Janelle, you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. He's like, no, you don't. I'm telling you, you don't. Like, that is just affecting your profit. It is costing you. It's bogging you down. And so that forward thinking, because the reason he said that, Tyler, the forward thinking is, we'd already talked about the vision. He says, where you said that you're going, this isn't going with you. And so he was able to see what I wasn't able to
That's
see.
awesome.
So I encourage everybody listening to reach out to Tyler and have a conversation, because it's really helpful just to have somebody to shine the headlights on your vision and your plan and where you want to go, to help you navigate that.
Yeah, awesome. What a great conversation.
This has been such a valuable conversation. Where can people find you? What links can we give?
Well, when I'm not under a rock, you can find me at cfomadeeasy.com, cfomadeeasy.com. And if it's okay, guys, I'd love to mention I also have a podcast. It's profitandgrit.com, which I can't wait until we get to publish our episode. And so either one of those places, I'm pretty open. You're welcome to book an intro call. Even if you're not sure you need services like me, a guy like me, I'm happy to help out and just give you my opinion. And I have no problem referring someone to someone else if I think it's a better fit. I try not to leave anyone hanging. I try to give them some level of guidance, just so they know what their next steps are.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the New Flat Rate podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks,
See you
Tyler.
later.
If you want to learn more about the new flat rate, go to thenewflatrate.com. If you want to learn more about CFO Made Easy, go to cfomadeeasy.com. Lastly, don't forget to check out his podcast by going to profitandgrit.com.